Hello and welcome back to the BCR Dawson sub, and another in my series of equipment videos dedicated to modeling the locomotives and rolling stock seen on the layout. These videos will review the prototype equipment seen on the British Columbia Railway during the 1970s and my efforts to model it in N-scale. Where possible, I will also offer comments with respect to options in HO scale for these cars. In this video, we're going to look at the various Woodchip cars owned and operated by the British Columbia Railway during the 1970s. I've had a few requests to cover the Woodchip cars, so here you go. So it was in the 1950s that lumber mills started to ship woodchips as a separate product, and the PGE converted several of its 40-foot steel gondolas for sawdust service. They had end and side extensions fashioned from wood. They were fairly crude conversions, and these cars were in service from as early as the 1950s. By the early 1960s, there was an increasing demand for woodchips to be shipped from interior mills to the coast, and the railway converted its first 60 woodchip cars from standard gondolas between 1962 and 1964. These cars were loaded at mills in Lillooet, Williams Lake, Quesnel, and Prince George. The cars were loaded underneath purpose-built gantries. The wood chips would be stockpiled at the mill and then blown through a pipe up to the top of the gantry and down into the cars. The wood chips were shipped to North Vancouver and loaded onto barges for shipment to Vancouver Island or into ships for export overseas. And some wood chip traffic also went to online pulp mills. Now, most of the PGE BCR woodchip cars did not venture offline, but I am aware of two instances in which chips were shipped offline by rail. In the 1960s, the PGE was supplying chips to a mill in Kamloops for a time, and several cars were assigned to this service, being interchanged via CN and CP. During the 1970s, the BCR was also sending wood chips to Kitimat via interchange with the CN at Prince George, and the cars would then go off to Terrace and then down to Kitimat. Depending on the location, when the cars got to where they were destined for, the wood chip would be unloaded either using a front-end loader inside the car, which would basically shovel the chips out through the end door, or by means of an end dumper, where the car was tipped up on its end to allow the chips to fall through the end door, or, in later years, via a rotary dumper, where the car was turned upside down and the chips would basically fall out. These photographs illustrate how the woodchip cars were loaded at interior mills on the BCR line. The mills would have a chip pile on site, and from there a pipe would direct the chips over to the loaders, and the shield above the cars helped prevent the chips from going anywhere but into the cars. And these photographs show cars being unloaded on mechanical end dumpers. Rotary dumpers were also used, and at some locations front-end loaders were also used to shovel the chips out of the cars. In 1977, several sawmill companies along the BCR line formed a consortium to facilitate the export of wood chips on a larger scale to domestic mills along BC's coastline and to markets in Europe and Asia. The result was Fiberco, which built a large export terminal in North Vancouver in 1979. This terminal provided facilities for the rapid unloading of chip cars and the stockpiling of wood chips on a much larger scale. And in anticipation of this increased traffic, the railway ordered 400 chip cars from its own rail car manufacturing plant in Squamish, and that brought the fleet up to more than 1,200 cars. And most of these cars served until the CN takeover in 2004 and beyond. And this photograph shows a car inside one of those rotary dumpers at the Fiberco terminal in North Vancouver. This slide shows the various woodchip cars that were either converted or purchased by the BCR. And as mentioned, the first conversions were between 1962 and 1964. And as woodchip traffic increased, the railway eventually acquired a further 1,180 cars. And you can see that these cars were obtained from a variety of builders, including Vancouver Iron, Hawker Siddeley, National Steel Car, and the railway's own manufacturing plant, Rail West Manufacturing Corporation. And this fleet of cars would handle the wood chips traffic for the railway all the way up until the 1990s, when two further orders of chip cars were received from National Steel Car. This is one of the cars from the first series of 60 Woodchip cars, numbered 9901 to 9960. These were converted from standard 52-foot 6-inch gondolas between 1962 and 1964. The conversions were undertaken at the railway shops in Squamish, and they entailed the addition of end and side extensions and a dump door at the A end. The cars were painted PGE freight car red with yellow bands across the top at each end. The first two cars received the Caribou Herald, but all subsequent cars in the series received the large PGE initials, as seen here. Note the high-mounted brake wheel at left. Another car from the same series, this one shows the A end with the dump door. The yellow band spans the door header, and the 3 panels below comprise the door. PGE 9924 is seen at Lillooet in 1980 with a full load of wood chips. Note the diagonal bracing and the stiffeners along parts of the top cord. At least 2 cars, 9942 and 9943, were fitted with lower cleanout doors along the sides. This is PGE 9942, which has been repainted with the MAP logogram, and it had 3 cleanout doors along each side. 3 cars from this series are seen at Lillooet in 1980, including 9958 and 9943, which had 2 cleanout doors per side. And 4 cars from this series were repainted in light green with dogwood logograms for the British Columbia Railway, including 9915, which was photographed at Quesnel in 1975. The railway ordered its first purpose-built woodchip cars from Vancouver Iron and Engineering Works in 1964. They were 60 feet in length, and construction of the 190 cars extended into 1965. And this is the builder's photograph of PGE 9638. PGE 9502 is pictured at North Vancouver in November 1964, shortly after delivery and painting. The dimensional data shows that the car has yet to be weighed. This view shows the A end with the dump door and the left side of the car. 9540 at Lillooet in 1980 with very faded stenciling after 16 years of service. This is 9522 at Chetwynd in 1981. Note the shaker plates or vibrator plates which have been added either side. These held the car during end or rotary dumping while the car was vibrated to release remaining chips inside the car. And these plates provided a spot where the car could be clamped before tipping or rotating. And BCOL 9590 was repainted in light green with dogwood logograms for the British Columbia Railway in 1976, and it's seen here shortly afterwards at North Vancouver. Shaker plates have been added, and the ladder at the right end of the car here you can see is being left in the high position. And this is the same car seen 26 years later at Squamish in 2002. It is now minus its side letterboards, which were removed as the welds started to fail. And you can also see that that ladder over on the right side has now been cut down. A follow-on order for 75 cars was placed in 1966, and they were numbered 9691 to 9765. They came with a low brake wheel and side grab irons in place of ladders, and they also had a different dump door, similar to those on the later Hawker Siddeley built cars. The cars were finished with the railway's MAP logogram, and this car is seen at Lillooet in 1980. This is the first car from that second series, built by Vancouver Iron. This is 9691, and it's seen at Prince George in 1999. And here you can see that different door at the A end. By the late 1980s, BC Rail was painting its chip cars all dark green, and they were not providing any logograms. The railway converted a further 20 standard gondolas into wood chip cars in 1968. They lacked the diagonal side bracing and they had different top chord arrangement. The brake wheels were left in the low position and the later design of dump door was installed. They were painted PGE freight car red and they were finished with the map logogram. The last of these conversions was PGE 9980 and it's photographed here at Williams Lake in 1974. And this view of 9963 at Lillooet in 1980 shows the A end with the later dump door. This design featured 5 large hinges and it comprised 2 flat panels. And this door would be used on subsequent cars built by Hawker Siddeley and Rail West Manufacturing. For its next woodchip cars, the railway turned to Hawker Siddeley for an order for 60 cars in 1968. These cars were 61 feet in length and they included the new dump door design. They had low brake wheel and ladders and rode on National C1 trucks. They were finished in PGE freight car red with the map logogram. And this is the builder's photograph of 9783 in 1968. This view of 9771 at North Vancouver in 1980 shows the AN dump door clearly. And you can see those 5 large hinges extending down from the door header. This door was developed from experience with earlier doors where the hinges tended to fail and the door design needed to be improved. 9778 is seen at North Vancouver in 1985, still with its map logograms intact. Note the paint touch-ups in primer red to the ladders and also to the shaker plates. The railway received an order for 140 cars from National Steel Car in 1970. These were numbered 90001 to 90140. Their design featured a dump door with vertical ribs at the A end and an NSC end with 8 ribs at the B end. These were also finished in freight car red with the map logogram. This is the builder's photograph of 90007, recorded in May of 1970. PGE 90113 is seen shortly after delivery and with a full load of wood chips in September 1970. The NSC dump door design included 4 hinges and 4 vertical ribs on the door itself. Uh, 90094 and 90137 are seen at Lillooet in 1980, and these 2 photographs show opposite ends and sides of the cars. "90133 was repainted in light green with dogwood logograms after only 5 years of service. This was likely as a result of damage sustained during a derailment. "90136 has been re-stenciled for the BCR, so it's got BCOL reporting marks, but it has not been repainted. The map logograms appear to have been painted out at some point, but the paint has since faded to reveal the logograms once again. So a really interesting weathering job on this car. The reflective yellow stripes indicating the dump door were added to chip cars from the 1990s onward. This photograph dates from 2013, so this is after the CN takeover. The railway received a second order from National Steel Car in 1972, and the cars were identical to the first order except for the B end, which featured 9 ribs instead of 8, so they added an additional rib up towards the top. On the left is a car from the first series with the 8 ribs, and on the right is a second series car with 9 ribs. The second order from National Steel Car was for 200 cars, and they were numbered 90141 to 90340. These were the first new cars delivered following the railway's change of name, and they arrived in BCR light green with the new dogwood logograms. BCOL 90265 is seen at Prince George in 1975. This photograph of 90145 was recorded in 1988, and it shows typical weathering seen on the light green wood chip cars as they aged. 90175 is seen with a wood chip load in 1996. The side letterboards have been removed. This is also a good reference photograph for advanced weathering on these cars. The railway went back to Hawker Siddeley for an order for 100 cars in 1973. They were numbered BCOL 90341 to 90440, and they were similar to the previous order in 1970. They were finished in BCR light green with dogwood logograms. This is the builder's photograph of BCOL 90387. (90345) is seen with a full load of wood chips at Squamish in 1974. This is less than a year after delivery. I photographed 90362 at the Fiberco export terminal in North Vancouver in 1990, still with its side letterboards and dogwood logograms. And this is another view of 90362 showing the arrangement of the B end on the Hawker Siddeley built cars. And that high ladder was required for access inside the car. There's also a grab iron at the top to allow people to transfer into the ladder inside the car. 90440 was the last car in this series, and it still carried its side letterboards in 2003. And that X-shaped weathering on the dump door indicates the bracing that was inside the door. In 1975, the British Columbia Railway opened its own car manufacturing plant at Squamish. Rail West Manufacturing was tasked with an order for 400 chip cars built to the Hawker Siddeley design. This view inside the Rail West plant shows a car on its side for work on the underframe. And this car is up on its trucks and it's almost ready for painting. Construction of the 400 cars began in 1975 and it extended into 1976. This view shows a car out of the paint booth and in the process of receiving stenciling, including the dogwood logograms. And this builder's photograph shows the last car of the series, 90840, which was outshopped in April of 1976. 90830 was finished in a special paint scheme of black and white with Rail West logograms and the slogan, "A Western brand of rail cars," along the sides. This car toured around the province in hopes of generating further orders for the Rail West plant. Unfortunately, none were received. These photographs of 90480 and 90481 in North Vancouver shortly after delivery in 1975 show opposite ends and sides of the cars. 90629 is seen at Fort Nelson in 1988. This was the northern terminus of the railway. And this is an overhead view of 90577 at Glen Fraser in 1989, showing advanced weathering inside and out. Well, let's now turn our attention to modeling these cars. What you see here is a list of kits known to be available currently or recently for the PG BCR woodchip cars. There have been some other ones which were available in past years, and I don't believe they're available anymore, so I won't mention them here. Caslow Shops produces 3D printed kits in HO scale for several types of the woodchip cars. They do the Hawker Siddeley Rail West manufacturing variant, so that's good for 3 series of cars. They do both NSC variants, the one with 8 ribs on the end and the one with 9 ribs on the end. Those kits are also available in the United States from 3D Central Trains, and Black Cat offers decals for some of these cars. So here you see a photograph of some of these kits offered by Caslow Shops. In N-scale, CS Models has offered for many years a styrene kit for the Hawker Siddeley and Rail West cars. That kit is still available and can be ordered from Pacific Scale Rail. The same car is also available from Caslow Shops as a 3D printed kit in N-scale, and kits for other types of the PGE BCR woodchip cars are apparently planned. The photograph below at right shows an earlier cast resin version of the kit, but they're now 3D printed in resin. And Black Cat offers N-scale decals as well. Briggs Models produced a 3D printed kit in N-scale for the 9901 to 9960 series cars, which were converted from standard gondolas. And the kit is designed to work with the Prairie Shadows gondolas. And I believe that this kit will soon be available through a third party. I have built 4 models representing the 9901 to 9960 cars converted from gondolas using the Prairie Shadows gondolas and the Briggs Models conversion kit. The ends and the corner posts are removed from the gondola and the kit is then attached on top. I added gold metal models, etched brake wheels, and end platforms. These photographs show one of 2 cars as originally built, one with the lower cleanout doors, and one repainted for the British Columbia Railway with side letterboards. I also obtained a special print for creating one of the later 9961 to 9980 series cars, which lacked the diagonal side bracing. They also had a different top cord arrangement, a later dump door design, and low brake wheel and ladders. The dump door came from a CS Models Woodchip car kit. So these 5 models were painted with custom acrylic mixes and then sealed with a coat of microgloss. The top bracing was omitted at this stage to allow for painting of the interiors. Custom decals were prepared and paper printouts were test fitted to the models during development of the decals. And this photograph shows the 5 models during the application of decals. The top bracing was cut from 20 by 20 strip styrene and then installed using AC. This is PGE 9906 as originally finished in the PGE block scheme. This view shows the A end with the dump door. PGE 9924 is identical. This view shows the B end with the high brake wheel and ladder. And 9942 was finished in the later map logogram scheme and it features the lower cleanout doors. 9915 represents one of 4 cars repainted for the British Columbia Railway with dogwood logograms on side letterboards. And this is PGE 9963 from the later series with the map logogram scheme. This view shows the A end with a later design of dump door. I have had several goes at building these CS Models Woodchip cars in N-scale. I was actually working at Pacific N-scale in the mid-1980s and I got to watch this kit progress from development through tooling to release. And when it came out, I built 2 cars for exhibit in the store. I then built a dozen for my own use, which received some additional weight. At a later date, I built a few more, and I elected to super detail them by removing much of the molded detail and replacing it with etched parts. Those models are covered in an article published in the November-December 2012 issue of N-Scale magazine. I recently built another 11 cars to this same standard using an assembly jig to aid in straightening the main parts during assembly. The assembly jig and the prepared parts are shown here. The sides are glued to the underframe using the jig, and this is to obtain nice straight car bodies. After installing the B ends, I glued weights to the underframes and I then added styrene floors cut from 40 thou sheet styrene, and that went above the weights to conceal them as well as to help keep the car bodies straight. The A end parts were then added to complete the car bodies. Note the notches at the bottom of the doors which have been cut out for the A end couplers. The side letterboards were added using a styrene alignment jig to ensure they are straight. I also added coupler pads underneath each end of the cars. This view of the undersides shows the coupler pads and also the Precision Scale Company brake appliances. So I had removed most of the molded details prior to assembling the cars, and I now installed various etched parts from gold metal models, including brake wheels, end platforms, grab irons, and sill steps. The top corner grab irons were fashioned from brass wire. Another view of the undersides now showing the couplers and the etched sill steps installed. During the casting process, some of the end hinges on the end door did not materialize, so I replaced the missing hinges with new ones fashioned from styrene. These photographs show the completed cars prior to painting. After painting the cars, the top bracing was installed, again using 20 by 20 strip styrene. And then custom decals were created and applied. These three cars were decaled to represent the 90341 to 90440 series built by Hawker Siddeley. And this is a close-up of one of those cars showing the A end with dump door. You'll notice that I installed air hoses at each end after the cars were painted and decaled. These 9 cars represent the 90441 to 90840 series built by Rail West Manufacturing. And this is a close-up view of one of those cars, this time showing the B end of the car with the brake wheel. There are some stenciling differences between the Hawker Siddeley and the Rail West cars. This includes the typeface and placement of the reporting marks and dimensional data, the builder's logos, and the consolidated stencils. In that upper photograph, you can see that for the Rail West car, the reporting marks and dimensional data are one panel further to the right. These two models represent the earlier 9766 to 9825 series built by Hawker Siddeley. I used Atlas National C1 trucks underneath these models, and those can be obtained from the Atlas Hart ballast cars. This photograph shows a model of 90345 from the 90341 to 90440 series built by Hawker Siddeley, and 90830 from the 90441 to 90840 series built by Rail West. This is the car which was finished in a special promotional scheme and toured the province. The Hawker Siddeley and Rail West cars can also be represented with the Caslow Shop's 3D printed kit for these cars. That came out sometime after I completed my models. The car body for that kit is a one-piece print, so it would be much easier to complete. And I should also mention once again that Black Cat offers decal sets for these cars in HO and N scales. During the pandemic, with some additional modeling time available, I embarked on a project to scratch build 6 cars from the 2 series of cars built by Vancouver Iron and Engineering Works. These were to be built in styrene. My build is covered in detail in a build thread on the Railwire forum, and you can see it by going to that link, so I won't go into too much detail step by step here. These photographs show the various parts for the car body prior to assembly. On the left is the preparation of sides for 6 cars, and on the right are the ends, floor, and underframe for 1 car. These photographs show the completed underframes and all of the main parts for 1 car. And these photographs show the car bodies after assembly. For the 2 cars from the 2nd series, I used dump doors from the CS Models kits. This is another view of the 6 assembled cars, 4 from the 1st series and 2 from the 2nd series. I added brass castings for the brake appliances and etched parts for the brake wheels, grab irons, and ladders from gold medal models. These cars had National C1 trucks, and those are available from Atlas, and I used Microtrain's couplers. And here are the 6 models fully assembled and ready for paint. The cars were painted with acrylic mixes, and then they were sealed with a coat of micro gloss. And the top bracing was then installed, again using strip styrene, and you can see that there was a different pattern of top bracing between the 2 series of cars. These photographs were taken during the decaling process. I used an old toilet roll for standing the cars on end when applying the end decals, and you can see the lowered brake wheel on the light green car. And this is all 6 cars finished, 4 from the 1st series and 2 from the 2nd series. This is 9507 from the 1st series. It shows the A end with a dump door, and those doors had 3 hinges, and you can also see the segmented ladder at the top part of the ladder was attached to the door header, so it had to stay there, and the bottom part of the ladder had to swing open with the door. This is 9522 from the first series, and it's got the added shaker plates. This view shows the B end with the high brake wheel. This is 9683 from the first series, showing the A end with the dump door, and on this particular car the ladder had been removed on the end. This is 9590 from the first series, repainted for the British Columbia Railway with side letterboards. The brake wheel has been lowered, but the ladders have not been cut down. This is 9696 from the second series, showing the later dump door and the National C1 trucks. This is 9702 from the second series. This shows the top bracing arrangement, which was different from the first series. And here is my fleet of 25 Woodchip cars from 7 different series, all in N-scale. I use real sawdust inside the cars, which makes for realistic loads. So when the cars get to the mills, I load them up, and then after the cars come off the layout after their southbound run, then I empty them for their next northbound trip. As always, I wish to thank the individuals who've kindly provided their photographs for inclusion in this presentation. The Railway's collection of builders' photographs now reside at the Railway Museum of BC in Squamish, and the images of the Caslow Shops models are from their website, and those are shown here with permission. I also wish to acknowledge the assistance of those who have helped me with various aspects of finishing my models. And thank you for watching, and I hope to be back with another equipment video soon. Until then, peace be with you.